round table for a moment to understand, what did you know about emotional intelligence before you met me? Brigitte.
Well, to be honest, I didn't know much at all, but I thought that it was something to do with awareness. How aware am I about what's going on around me? Maybe something that we're born with, something that's like a set level, you get given what you're given, and that's that. Yeah.
Interesting. Laura?
First of all, thank you, Caron, for this, giving us this opportunity. It was a very interesting one for all three of us as far as we could communicate after. For me, it was slightly different to Brigitte. I knew it is something that you can develop in time. I knew it had something to do with being aware that is similar of your own emotions and knowing how to communicate and how to control them. And I knew it had something to do with empathy and the relationship with others. And probably this is the limitation I had with my understanding.
Great. And Pat?
Laura knew a lot more than me. My understanding was probably more in line with Brigitte's initial assessment. I'd heard emotional intelligence be used, especially in the field of sales that I worked in. There's been a big shift towards embracing emotional intelligence in the sales field. But I thought it was very much like my understanding of IQ, in that, to me, my thoughts around IQ was that it was almost a test to gauge someone's intellectual ability. And I didn't think there were different components to it. I thought it was sort of a scale on, let's say, one axis. And I didn't realise you could actually look at emotional intelligence, pull it apart, and look at all these different bits that make it up.
Yeah, and that kind of answers my next question, because I was curious about how, as a result of this assessment and the debrief, how has your experience changed your perception? I think, Pat, you've kind of just answered it. Is there anything you want to expand upon?
For me, just understanding the different components that actually make up emotional intelligence, like that, it was very insightful. And the other bit that I didn't realise is that you can actually influence the different components that make up who you are. And the other bit that I found fascinating was that with a number of the different components of the EQ, it was that different components balance each other out. So in some respect, it appeared to me like there were certain components of yourself that if you heighten this one, it sort of automatically lowers another one. Somewhere in there, you can find a balance that suits maybe you as a person, or the means that you're trying to achieve. And that by looking at it and understanding it, you can learn, grow, and perhaps grow in a direction that you'd like to grow in.
Yeah, the balance is a really interesting one. It's emotional intelligence about utilization of these certain aspects within ourselves, and it's very contextual. You'll never be the same all the time. You'll never be in perfect balance. The objective is to understand how best to utilize the different aspects of emotional intelligence according to context. But I love the way you've explained it. Thank you. Laura, how has your perception changed?
I think similar to Patrick, I found a lot more depth and a lot of areas that I never thought about from an emotional intelligence perspective. I never thought about managing stress, for example, or things that have more to do with yourself. I think I always thought about emotional intelligence as more about others, whereas it's highly about yourself. And everything about the relationship is filtered through you and how you deal with certain aspects. Well, there's so much to talk about, but definitely the depth I wasn't expecting, and the balancing act and how certain elements influence others was really, really interesting for me.
Right. Brigitte, can you expand upon that? How has your perspective changed?
I'm similar to the others, actually, that I'm really surprised how multifaceted it is, and changeable, and it allows you to target exactly what needs work in a really specific way. So I was really surprised with that, and also how they do work together. And I can see now how being really high in one area and low in another area can have, I guess, I would find that a negative experience for my life. Like, for example, I'm quite high in empathy, and I've always thought to myself, well, everyone else seems to benefit from this, but I'm not sure it's so great actually having empathy. But I can see that imbalance with some other things, like being assertive for me is really low. That's why it hasn't been a positive experience for me, but maybe it can be. So it's given me a bit of hope that things can change, and I can understand more about why and what exactly needs to change.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's why I love emotional intelligence so much, because you can change. You can learn to see yourself, first and foremost, through different lenses with different people. Just as you've highlighted assertiveness, you can learn how to be more assertive. Again, depending on the people and the context. It might not be appropriate for you to suddenly shift from being not so assertive, I don't know, with your kids, as a bad example, for you to suddenly shift and become very heavy-handed, that wouldn't be appropriate. However, there is a way to be more assertive with them in a way that is natural and isn't confrontational to their experience. Yeah, really cool. I like it a lot. Thank you.